are live. Time being 6:30 and 51 seconds. Today is December 4th. This is the Master Plan Committee meeting, which tonight will be held in the Municipal Building, Town Council Chambers, here at 355 East Central Street. A note to residents: all members of the public are welcome to attend public board and committee meetings in person. The meetings will also be live streamed by Franklin TV and in Franklin YouTube video. Recordings of the meetings are also available on Franklin TV's Franklin Town Hall TV YouTube channel. Additionally, in an effort to maximize citizen engagement opportunities, citizens will be able to continue to participate remotely via phone or Zoom. The link to access tonight's meeting is in the URL on the agenda. Click the link or copy paste it into your browser. And call-in phone number is 1-929-205-6099 and enter the meeting ID 879-7637-9325. Again, that call-in number is 1-929-205-6099 and enter meeting ID 879-7637-9325. And then press pound. All right, so the first thing on our agenda for tonight is approval of meeting minutes for October 23rd, 2024, and for November 14th, 2024. I'll take a motion.
So move.
Second.
Mel?
All those in favor, roll call vote of approving the meeting minutes. Bruce, online.
Yes, yes.
Meg, online.
Yes.
Gino.
Yes.
Janelle.
Yes.
Eric.
Yes.
Joe.
Yes.
Erin's online. Erin?
Yes. Yes.
Hamblin, yes. Frangillo.
Yes.
Jones.
Thank you.
Unanimous.
Thank you very much. All right, so the second thing on the agenda for tonight is review of comments to the master plan final draft. First of all, before we get started on the second agenda item, I'd just like to thank everybody for all of the hard work that's gone into getting us to this point. I hope everybody had a great Thanksgiving. Welcome back. I can't believe it's already been a month since this went out for public review. But here we are back again to review further comments from the public, as well as any additional comments that we may want to have from the committee. Amy, I'll throw it over to you first.
Oh, well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I shared all the comments on the drive with the entire committee. I also printed some out tonight. I know that there's a lot here, that we got a lot of good feedback. Some of it the board might want to take into consideration, might want to meet with the subcommittees to discuss what's going on. So if there's like a few, some of the items tonight that people want to bring up for discussion, I think that's the direction that the committee wanted to go. And then other than that, trying to plan something. And then after that, we'll talk about future plans.
Thank you, Amy. Just a quick note to everybody, you do have a packet of the comments that have been made from various individuals. And also you'll have an opportunity to make your own comments, but I think, and I'm going to throw it out to the committee for their opinion on this matter, since there are a variety of different requests for revision to various topics, like for instance community services and town services and economic development. This is a few of the things I'm just kind of perusing over. I was wondering if the chairs and the subcommittees would be willing to take an opportunity between now and say, what, Amy, what's the dates that we were thinking here? So you give us a project timeline.
So, yeah, we were hoping that we'd be in front of planning board January 13th, but I don't think that's going, with the holidays coming up, I think it's gonna be a little bit
Yeah, it
difficult
might be a little premature.
for the subcommittees to be able to get together. You basically have these probably next 2 weeks, and then the holidays come in, and probably looking at meeting the beginning of January. So if we can get something in front of the planning board at the end of January, the last meeting, which is the 27th, hopefully there could be some time in January after the first that subcommittees can get together to finalize the comments.
So I think I'll start with you, Kobe. Any thoughts on taking this to the subcommittee levels and allowing each subcommittee or your subcommittee to review any comments that are specific to your content area, maybe hashing them out, making the changes and bringing them back to Amy?
Yeah, I'm happy to. I think that makes sense, as long as we have another opportunity to come together.
Well, we have to still vote on everything.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Question about process while we're here, and just, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
What is the, is there a codified approval process? Are we the final board? Is the planning board the final board? Is the town council the final board?
The planning board is the final board. They're actually the approval. It will go to town council because I think they put it in a resolution, but the planning board is the final say to approve the plan.
And that's according to the state?
Yeah, because technically
Yeah.
it's supposed to be written by a planning.
Yeah, it's supposed to be written by the planning board,
Right.
yeah.
Okay, well, I anticipate some challenges, but
Yep.
I'm excited to take them on and look forward to getting back with the group.
Okay. Which brings me back to the question, would it be logical, instead of, I mean, let's put it this way. We can take the time tonight, and we can actually go through all of the comments that were made by the various individuals, but they're for different subject areas and different subcommittees that could actually be better to maybe peel out specific content areas and bring them down to the subcommittee level of each subcommittee. Take an opportunity to kind of compile those and or make revisions based on that input. And now, folks, the one thing I want to make one simple statement about in regards to the public input. These are just public suggestions and input. They don't necessarily constitute that these things need to actually be changed. They're just things to take into consideration. So it's additional public input with us ultimately being the body and the subcommittees who will make the changes if we feel the changes are worthy of it, if that makes sense. Yes, ma'am. Janelle?
So clarification on that, even some of the comments we got from planning board chair and member, are those things that should be considered differently if they're the ones that are ultimately approving?
I guess in the sense, I kind of leave that up to you folks to make the better judgment call based on whether you think the changes, well, let's put it this way. If there are changes that for all intents and purposes are logical changes because they either, the planning department may have some kind of special understanding of how that process works, then that might seem like a logical thing for us to change. But if it's simply just an opinion or something that somebody has that they think would be good or helpful to have in it, that just kind of has to be weighed because we can only make so many additional changes to what we currently have. If that helps.
Yep.
Anyway. Anything to say on that?
Yeah, I just think that, I'd like to see the subcommittees open a little bit to these suggestions. I'm not saying every suggestion may be included.
Right.
Some of the suggestions, I think, should really be thought about and considered, when, accepting these comments from the public and, from planning board members, and I think it's really important that we take some time to really look into what their suggestions are. And, from reading some of them I think are kind of simple to make the changes, and some of it's just wording changes more so than actual complete and rewriting of the whole goal.
Right.
So it would be nice that the subcommittees went through the ones that pertain to each subcommittee and considered the recommendations that were provided in the comments.
Yes.
For what it's worth, I did come prepared to speak on all the comments that we received, so if that is the move of today, which I wanted to make sure that we were prepared for, I'm happy to,
Well,
but I'm happy to
I
do that.
guess I kind of have to throw this out to the rest of the chairs and ask them if this is something that they all feel prepared or ready to kind of make comment on what's been,
I guess-
the thing is that a lot of this public input didn't close until Monday. So that was just a couple of days ago. My only concern is, have we given everybody an opportunity to kind of vet this public input prior to us kind of going over them tonight, in lieu of maybe putting together another date for the subcommittees, and that will give each individual, as well as the subcommittee chairs, an opportunity to further digest.
Yeah, and I think either way, there's enough in here that if we're gonna be changing wording, this is probably not the right space to be like really manipulating wording for, 30 different
Mhm.
things. But yeah. Happy to chat.
Yes, sir.
Just from a practical standpoint then, I anticipate at the subcommittee meetings, the subcommittee is going to be working to make active changes within a document. Can we get a copy of which document those changes should be made into?
Well, again, Amy, if you want to make a comment, that document, that live document, that's still our current draft, is only being manipulated through Amy, through the planning department. So if there were, I won't speak for you, Amy, do you want to comment?
No, sure. Sure, Glenn and I talked about this. What we would advise for the subcommittees and the chairs when they go through this is basically to put together a spreadsheet, and I can create one and send it out to everybody. And you're not gonna work in a live document, you're gonna do the spreadsheet. You can use a page number or your goal number or action item number and say this is the change. And write out the change, kind of like we did when we created the implementation plan.
Correct.
With the changes, we have the whole spreadsheet of what the changes would be. So we'll go back to something like that. And then all that would come to myself. If the committee agrees on all that, then we will update the document.
Okay, so the process is we'd make a spreadsheet of all the changes, each of the subcommittees, no changes would be made in the document. We'd come back to the full committee to make a decision on each of those items, whether they should be changed or not, and then go to you. Okay.
Yes.
What about like wholesale changes? As opposed to, like, I think there's some examples such as, we had got some great comments there about how we're talking about pedestrian-friendly areas and walkability, and there was good input that wholesale change should be made throughout the entire document. Is it possible that we, in this spreadsheet, we can just say wholesale change, please review this language, and then staff could make those changes? Because that would help us at least from a expediency
Right.
perspective to review the document and make those changes.
It's actually, I met with Beta and Barrett yesterday, and that comment was brought up when Ally brought that up on November 14th. And what they're saying is, any ADA compliance that we have put in the document is going to have to comply to everything you're talking about. Whether we only wrote like, a bike lane or this lane or whatever, a wheelchair lane, they're gonna have to comply to that, because it's going to be in the state regulations to comply with it. But to answer your question, Eric, yes, you can put the wholesale ones, just say like entire document and this applies to it.
Great.
So, yeah.
That'll help, thank you.
Janelle, as the chair of land use and zoning, is this kind of the same question I threw at Kobe? Is this something that you folks would feel comfortable being able to take the public input relevant to land use and zoning, have an opportunity for your group to meet again to kind of process that input, make adjustments or not, depending on what the committee or subcommittee feels is necessary, and then reflect those changes back in a spreadsheet to Amy and that, doing it, following that kind of process? You comfortable with that?
Yes,
Okay.
with a caveat on that. So I read through the comments. There weren't a lot that were specific to land use,
Okay.
but there were several that were specific to perhaps land use and zoning language in the housing and economic development portion. And so this gets into, is there a joint subcommittee meeting to talk through these items? Or is this a final opportunity just to make sure those pieces are consistent with each other, right? If we're going to be choosing to adjust language in one or the other section, we really should make sure that there's consistency across. And I know that Barrett reviewed for redundancy, and we tried to make sure things specific to land use and zoning or land use and zoning, although some trickled into other areas. But that was my thinking of, okay, how do we resolve those comments? I wasn't sure the right approach.
You can definitely do a joint meeting. I mean, two of your members are on the housing subcommittee now. So, you know, I think if you guys
I
could
think
coordinate that and.
We ran into the issue when we thought about having a joint subcommittee meeting before, that we would have had so many people that we would be a quorum of the whole master plan committee.
Well,
No, I would post
No,
a subcommittee.
now
I
we-
would I would do a joint, because you guys do the joint budget committee. I
Right.
would do
Yeah.
a joint subcommittee meeting, and I would post for both
Okay.
on one agenda.
Right.
Okay.
yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
So it's basically like having
Yep.
same,
Yeah.
same people, two different groups, two different topics, two different
Mhm.
agendas.
Yep.
Okay.
Which is legal.
Yeah.
And it doesn't sound like it is.
Yeah,
So-
so, yeah, I mean.
So that was my thinking for
Okay.
how to resolve
Yep.
some of the.
No, it's logical,
comments.
I think
Yeah.
that's a good idea.
Yeah, it is a good idea.
Rick's not gonna-
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they seem mostly to be,
I'm sorry?
most of the comments are
Geared around housing.
housing, land use,
Mhm.
economic development. They're all like Kobe's and Janelle's.
Rick.
And Rick, yeah.
Yeah. Meg, it's kind of the same question for you that I posed to Janelle and Kobe in regards to putting together yet one more subcommittee meeting in order to kind of hash out this public input.
Yeah, we can certainly do that. There aren't very many comments, and I think the one letter that we got from Conservation Commission is something that I thought was already addressed, so just take a note anyway. But definitely a quick meeting to review everything and get confirmation.
Makes sense. Thank you very much.
Just a quick question.
Joe, go right ahead.
5 or 6 comments were just emailed to us.
Yes.
Is that a complete list of everybody in town that commented on the master plan?
Yes.
That's very disappointing. Very, you know. And 3 of the commenters are on public boards, thank God we have that. There's no interest. I'm very disappointed in all that we've done with outreach and farmers markets, and everything we've done. It boiled down to minimal. It's not even, less than 1% of 1% of 1%.
It could also be a matter of circumstance, meaning the time that some of this process has been going on. It was the same time the election was going on.
Yeah, but I buy that, but
Holidays.
we've been on Zoom for a year now,
No,
we've
I-
had more than enough opportunity
I know.
to reach in if there was any
Yeah.
comments. So,
And
And
they
ironically,
did
Joe,
such a good job.
Exactly. Along those lines, Joe, too, though, is, you know, many people will probably have further comment once we get to, say, for instance, the planning board and the town council.
I would say you're gonna get more comments
Yeah.
when this stuff gets approved and it goes to a board to get developed, then you'll see the room for
Oh, of course.
it. Why didn't I know this?
Well, and you said, how many times have you said it, Joe?
I've seen it happen 100 times.
Right, how many times have we posted meetings, had
I
public
agree.
hearings, and people come in and say, well, I didn't know about this?
Once the shovel goes in the ground, you're gonna see the room's full.
You've never encountered anything like that in your life, have you, Joe?
Yeah,
Recording in progress.
on both sides.
Okay,
Through the chair?
just a second. Anything else,
I'm
Joe?
all set, thank you.
Go ahead, sir.
Fair point about the comments that have been received on the implementation plan and the draft master plan at this stage. But I do think that throughout this process, we have gotten a lot of public input. We've had a great session at Dean, and so I just want to appreciate and recognize all the public that did share their comments to us, and that their input was heard and has been incorporated into the document to make it that much stronger. So, while in this instance, we may not have gotten a lot, I think throughout the entire process, this group as well as the public has had a hand in making decisions on the document.
And that's correct, Eric, I can agree with, I concur with you in the sense that if we look almost all the way as far back as March, when we had that open house over at Dean College, we had a tremendous turnout for that. And we've had perpetually since regular input from the public. So we might not have gotten collectively as many public inputs from this last month, but you're right, it's been over the past 18 months, pretty much regular input from the public in various senses, in various topics. Amy?
Yeah, I mean, just to elaborate on that, the public has seen almost the entire document except for the implementation plan. So, agree that we've had really good feedback over the past year and a half that we've been working on this. The implementation plan is the one that, as he says, when we put a shovel in the ground, that's when people will come out for it. But they've seen, 80% of the document, but the implementation plan was something that really, when I told the planning board what to look at, I said, look at the implementation plan, you've seen the rest of it already.
Yep.
So, that was kind of really the focus on this last round of public feedback.
Gina, in fact, I was going to go to you next, Gina, as far as chair of the Sustainability Subcommittee, and your same thoughts that I posed.
Yeah, well, two thoughts. One is, part of what they saw is the goals and objectives, which did not include the specific action items and such, but the general concepts were commented on by many in the public. And, so they may have felt, many people may have felt, oh yeah, I provided my input already, and I don't need to do it again. But in terms of subcommittee meeting to go over that, sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that everybody was comfortable with meeting one more time to try to hash these final comments out so that we can kind of bring this to a final document that we can all kind of go back and look at like we did the last meeting and say, okay, these are the changes. We can finally put this all into a final draft. Amy said Jill's more than happy to compile the rest of that information and put it into the final draft, which we will ultimately have to have another meeting of the full committee so that we can sit back and finally make an approval, our own approval of the document before we before we actually present it to the planning board in January. Yes, I know I said January 13th, but if you recall, I also mentioned I wanted to try to give us some leeway, some extension of time, just to make certain that we get this right. I don't want to be in a rush to really miss anything or skip anything or have something left out where somebody's like, well, hey, I gave you this public input, and why wasn't that included? We want to take the time to truly digest this information efficiently, and adding another meeting to the agenda hopefully shouldn't cause too much disruption in things, other than the fact that this pushes up a planning board meeting. But not for nothing. It's January. What's the planning board doing in January anyways, right? What are you doing in January? There's nothing to do, right?
Yeah,
I'm joking.
that's what we're putting here.
Along that lines, so I think we got a general consensus, Amy, in regards to the subcommittees kind of taking over the main body of the public comments. With that being said, Amy, let's look at the time. So this, or the future dates. So the third thing on our agenda tonight is to talk about future dates. Now, as it stands now, Amy passed out, did everybody get a copy of this sheet that Amy passed out? Okay. So Amy, what you've got currently listed on this master plan project timeline is the last date of January 13th. Since we're going to be adding in an additional date for the subcommittees, this would push us to 27th. So this January 13th date now would be the 27th of January, which means that the council meeting, let me take a look, if we were to get final approval from the master plan on the 27th, that means that would finally push us to the town council at the next
So
available.
before we jump ahead,
Go ahead, I'm listening.
sorry, not to interrupt you.
Yep.
I think we need to know when subcommittees can have the comments back and how soon the document goes to the planning board. And the only reason why I say this is because if it comes on the 20th and I give it to them, they're gonna want a few weeks. They're not gonna probably completely get this done in a week. And that's why I said before we jump ahead to town council, they've seen it,
Mm-hmm.
but the sooner I get the final draft to them,
Yep,
I think they're gonna want a few weeks because it is a lengthy document. Nobody's looking at me like.
I mean, it's been a year.
I know.
sorry.
no, go ahead.
It's been a years-long public thing. This is what they're gonna receive is gonna be 95% aligned with what they already see,
Mhm.
and it'll be obvious where it's changed. I don't know, I'm not just, this is not to like judge them, or, it's more, my recommendation would be, review the text in front of you, if that's a concern.
Yeah,
I don't think you need more than a week or two to see whatever tweaks we
okay.
make. That's-
Is it possible, or would there ever be a chance where the master plan committee and the planning board could have like a pre-meeting, so we can iron out questions? Because we're just gonna give them that, and they're just gonna make a decision where maybe we could comment and kind of educate them on what we're thinking. Because otherwise, everything we're doing right now just goes to them, and we have no say.
Joe, do me a favor, just put your microphone in front.
Well, maybe better off, huh? But a possible planning board, master plan committee meeting with questions back and forth?
Yep.
Because maybe we could convince them of something, and maybe they'll convince us it was wrong.
Yes.
Well, it is a presentation, right?
It is.
Well, I
That
was
was
gonna
the
say
last
the 27th would be
Yeah.
that night.
27th is
So all the planning board, and we will all be in the same room?
Yes, that would be us presenting our draft master plan.
And it could be a
Our
question and
final.
answer back and forth,
That's exactly
but
what,
will they have enough time to review everything so?
that's why we want to give them the 3 weeks.
Alright,
That's
okay.
why we want to be able to give them 2 or 3 weeks.
2 weeks, right?
2 weeks.
So they could come back to us and say, well, we don't really agree with this, and we could give them our comments on it.
13, we just say January 13th.
Yes,
we
but
gave it to them.
they'll also have an opportunity during the time, that 2-week time frame, to make any comments that they have. In fact, they could actually make comments back to Amy or to us or me
Okay.
and say, hey, this is something we saw that is a glaring thing that we think we
Right,
should
right.
have changed prior to the meeting and prior to the presentation that we could take into consideration, and Amy could make that change and we could actually.
So it's not just like we're just giving all our
No.
work for a year now and give it to them, and they just go and make all these random decisions and really flush us out. It couldn't happen.
Well, I believe, if I remember correctly, from 2013, 14, when that master plan went through, it was basically just one meeting
All right, well,
that
that's
the
good.
committee had with the planning board. And then it became just one meeting with town council. So, and I still have the PowerPoints from that. I didn't make it, Jeff did.
Probably a little easier back then than today.
Well, for all intents and purposes, the town council meeting, he's not gonna let me put together a 2-hour presentation. He's gonna be like, you got 15 minutes, let's talk about it. Yeah, if we're lucky, to review the master plan. So,
All right.
which is why much of this information kind of needs to get to the planning board as soon as we can make it available to them, so that they can review and make further comments themselves. Gobi?
Eric also had a hand. Two things, okay, one, Greg Rondo, Chair Rondo's, comments again, right now, they're just a list of like, where to look, but I don't actually know how we feel, are we gonna be receiving that in short time?
Yeah, I'm gonna follow up with him.
Okay.
I'll follow up with him to elaborate on that. I mean, I literally got that Tuesday, yesterday. But yeah, I will follow up on that and let him know that subcommittee's getting together, can you be a little more specific on what you want? And anything, if I do get any more feedback, I'm gonna put it in the drive. So when the subcommittees meet, check that drive before you, or when you meet, because if I do get a few more comments, I'll put it in there.
And then related, and maybe I alluded to this, and I don't think we need to get too far ahead of ourselves, but we have some indication of of planning board members having concerns with, I would call some of our core principles, and again, I think a lot of really good feedback from really thoughtful people, and I think we're going to take them back and talk about what we incorporated and what we don't. Are we anticipating that the general understanding is that the planning board and town council empowered this body to work for a year and collect public input and think about a long-term vision? Or, yeah,
Yes.
okay,
To
is
answer your
that's the
question,
understanding?
our charge is the responsibility to foster a 10-year master plan.
Okay.
It's our responsibility to present our findings based on the public input to the master plan, to the planning board. The planning board is not in the position nor charged with making significant changes to the master plan, because that's not what they were charged for. That's what we were charged for. Are we in a position that we can field and make appropriate changes based on,
Of course.
input from them? Absolutely. And we can field and make appropriate changes in light of how significant or serious it may be. But for the most part, they're not really in a position to make major significant changes to the work that this body has been working so hard diligently on. Yes,
Well,
Joe?
in that case, why wasn't a couple planning board members on the master planning committee?
They were.
Rick,
On this
Jen,
body here?
Jen and Rick.
Jen and
Rick-
Oh, that's right, Jen did it.
Yeah.
And
Rick's not on the planning board.
He was.
He was.
Oh, just for a week or two and then the election.
Yeah.
All right.
That's why we had two planning board members.
Meg.
Meg?
Mel.
Mel?
I keep calling you Megan.
Now,
It's okay, Counselor Jones. I want to go back to the dates, because that's what we were trying to discuss to figure this
Sure.
out. So if we look at what's here, we have a week ahead of time that all the approved changes go to Beta and Barrett, and then they will give it to the master plan. So they only had like up to a week to review in this, right? So if we do it that way, then I would say if we want to give them a little more time, then maybe we need to have it to Beta and Barrett, and so they can get it to the planning board by the 15th or the 16th, and then we can just go backwards, right? So then we know like how much more time we have to get our subcommittee meetings in. Right, am I right? I think I'm
Oh,
right.
because you changed 13 to 27.
Right, so we changed it 2 weeks.
So
Right.
we could, in other words, you're saying, push Beta Back Group's week of incorporation up a week?
At least a
Or
week,
keep it the week, okay.
yeah.
Well,
That would give us a little more time to meet.
that's true, that would give you an additional week to meet. But once you've got that subcommittee done, and you've gotten that spreadsheet with those potential changes over to Amy, what's the expected timeline, or that they wouldn't actually need much time to incorporate these changes? You're really only talking about maybe a day's worth of work, maybe a few hours worth of work.
Right, and if I give them the dates to prepare, to like declare their schedule for like, the certain days that we know it's gonna come to them, then it should just hopefully be a
It
couple
should
days.
really just be a matter of.
I know, but that's why we have to figure out what the dates are, so we
When are
can.
we
Right.
meeting again?
Well, that's what this agenda item is. So agenda 3, we're talking about future dates. So we were just talking about
I
changing.
think Meg has her hand up.
Hold on one
She
second,
does.
Meg, I apologize. And Meg, I'm not gonna call you Mel, I promise. So on January 27th is the potential date for the presentation to the planning board. That does put things up 2 weeks. We could, for all intents and purposes, push up Beta and Barrett's 2 weeks or a week, from 1/6 to 1/9 to 1/13 to 16?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, just thinking that, so, even going back to subcommittee meetings, so it gives you between now and all the way through the first, well, not the first, the first week and a half of January to get together. So that's all. If you can't meet in the next 2 weeks, you're not gonna meet until after the holidays, and it basically gives you, you're not gonna meet the week of the first probably, gives you that 1 week after to meet.
Right, so for all
So
intents and
just
purposes.
thinking if that's realistic for the subcommittees.
Is up, so basically up until the 20th of December is when your, probably opportunities for people to meet. So that's roughly 2.5 weeks for the subcommittees to get together, compile their thoughts, and ultimately make their changes. And then, I know it's the holiday, which is tough, because it's 2 weeks worth of time, but maybe at some point, that information can get compiled, sent over to Amy, and the sooner Amy can get that information, she can simply hold on to it and send it all over to Beta Barrett at one time, so that they can make their changes in probably a matter of 1 day. So, Meg? I'm sorry, go ahead.
That's okay. It was actually unrelated to the schedule itself anyway. I was just thinking, if Amy, would you mind being able to send out the link to, I believe I have the most recent implementation plan draft on the drive. It just took me a while to find it. Just want to make sure that everyone has the most up-to-date version of that we're working off of for these subcommittee meetings over the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, that's fine, but we want to make sure you're not going to edit in the implementation
Yes.
plan.
Just want to make sure I'm reading off of the correct
Yeah,
one.
so it's basically, the final one is in the final draft of the plan, of the entire plan.
So like under the drive, are we sitting under which folder? Because I was looking under the,
Actually, I don't know if I put the final plan on the drive. No, I thought it was there. Let me check tomorrow. I'll make sure that the
Okay.
final plan is on that drive, and then that will have the final implementation plan in there that you can go off of.
thanks, Amy, appreciate it.
Thanks, Meg. Eric?
Yeah, a couple thoughts. Number one, if that could get sent out to everybody, that would be helpful for me as well, to have that. And maybe it's a PDF as well, that way it's not editable. One quick question. The planning board has received the document, correct?
Correct.
And they have had time to review it and provide comments. And Kobe, you were alluding to some comments from the planning board that there may be some concerns. Are they contained within these documents? Like, I know we have Greg Rondeau's comments here that we're getting clarifications on, but I just want to make sure that
Greg and Beth both.
it's not any other sort of documents that's
No.
out there about the questions to it, okay? The only other, my final recommendation would be that if it's possible, do a red line version to the planning board, so that way they can really focus their attention to new additions or changes that have been made post their review, because that might help expedite their review process as well. I know I always like seeing red lines as opposed to having to reread everything and like double check. Did you make that change? Did you not make that change? It's just very, very clear what sort of changes were made based off of the feedback that people provided from the last iteration that they've received, so.
Well, I guess my question to you, Amy, is how much additional work is that going to add? See,
Well-
that's,
I guess depending on what comes back from the subcommittees, I can share with them the document I'm gonna send over to Beta and Barrett to update the plan and say, these are the changes that are going to be incorporated. And then they will see directly what is going to be taken into, put into the document.
and as part of that,
They would know.
you can do the same for us. So once
Yes.
each subcommittee has compiled and we've collected all that information, you can collectively send it to Beta and Barrett and simultaneously send it to all of us, so that we have an opportunity to see what each subcommittee
Right.
is ultimately proposing a change to,
Mhm.
as well as the plan.
Yeah, I guess just to clarify, my understanding is that they're not going to go to Beta and Barrett until the full committee has made a decision whether the list should be changed. And then that final list would go to them after the full committee meeting. Because what I don't, that's why I'm confused, I guess, is like, if Beta and Barrett's gonna get the version after the subcommittees, but before our full committee meets, they might start to make changes that we don't necessarily agree to. So I think it should hold off to send to Beta and Barrett until the full committee, as we were discussing, is gonna sign off on it. Then it goes to them, and then that could get submitted to the planning board as well. And I would just, as far as, as far as red line, it's just track changes, just say track changes, and it'll show up. It isn't too complicated of a process there.
No, I understand. Kobe, you have a comment?
No, supporting that, I'm looking for that date where we're all gonna come back together, and making sure that that has sufficient time to.
Well, I think ideally we're talking the 15th of January.
Enough time?
I think it has to get to the planning board by then.
Well, then it would be the 8th of January. That would be the first Wednesday, first available Wednesday.
Well, I guess if the committee was to agree on the 15th, then I get it to Beta on the 16th, and
Yep.
hopefully they're done by the 20th, and that's a week before the planning board.
Okay, all right.
And if it's red line changes, that should be enough.
All right, so we'll meet full committee on the 15th.
On the 15th.
Vote on the changes. Okay, so he's gonna need them before that.
I mean, I'm happy to choose a non-Wednesday before that.
Well,
Mhm.
I think what we've found, Kobe, is that it's, people have kind of set their Wednesdays aside
Yeah,
for
that's
meetings, and to
Yeah.
shift it to another night might be complicated to get everybody to show up.
I mean, I would say the only thing is the 13th, the Monday night, does not, normally, planning board doesn't meet that night, and normally they're the only board that meets on Monday nights.
Is that a holiday?
No, the
What?
20th
Oh.
is, the 20th is the holiday.
So you're gonna move
Yeah,
that
I'm just
13th,
saying, if
you're gonna
you
move
were
the
looking
13th
at
and
doing another
26th,
night.
okay.
At that point, it's 2 days. No, it's more like if we wanted to do the week before.
Okay.
Is that-
Is the 15th okay with everybody?
Same time,
I'm sorry?
same time,
Yes.
6:30?
Correct, 6:30. Do we need to vote on that, Amy? Just to add a vote.
That's fine.
Add that
I
in.
think you have kind of a agreement.
We have a general consensus on the dates. All right. Kobe, you had one more question?
I was just saying, I trust you to
Okay.
make scheduled changes
All right.
based on your understanding of consensus.
Thank you. So we'll add the 15th in, for a full master plan subcommittee to our list of dates, and we'll make tentatively the 27th for a planning board
Right.
meeting to discuss and present the planning board with our draft version for hopefully for their final approval. Which leaves us with the time that each subcommittee will ultimately have to put their subcommittee meetings together. So, to the chairs, do you feel that you'll have an opportunity or the means to be able to put together a subcommittee, whether it be in person or even through virtual means? Because these things, we don't actually have to have them in person if you don't really want to or need to try to just hash these out. I'll go to the chairs, and I'll start with you, Cody. You okay with being able to?
Yep. Yep.
Gino?
Yes.
Janelle? Meg?
Yes.
All right, we'll just have to throw this by Rick. I'll shoot him
Let's
an
see if
email.
Eric wants to touch base with Rick.
Sure. Happy to touch base with him.
Yeah, for housing.
Perfect. Excellent. So it's settled. I wish I had Tom's hammer.
Gavel.
The gavel. Perfect. Good stuff.
Not a hammer.
Not a hammer. It's a gavel. All right. So before I end the meeting, I just want to go again, as I usually do, around the table to see if anybody has any further comments, statements, or anything else they need or would like to add in to tonight's conversation. I'll start with Erin, who hasn't yet had an opportunity to speak.
No, nothing from me. Thank you, though.
Bruce?
I just want to echo Joe's concerns that, we've had, I don't consider it a large turnout. Maybe the thing in March when we were up at Dean, that was a big turnout. But other than that, we've had very little participation from any of the residents, other than Mark and the other guy down on Longfellow Drive.
All right. Anything else you want to add?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay. Who else do we have?
Just Meg.
Meg, Aaron.
Okay. Meg, anything else you want to add?
Nothing else for me at this time, thank you.
Eric?
Yeah, I'll just note that since we last met, both Mel and I were able to attend events at the senior center as well as the town hall, or excuse me, town library, thanks to Steve. So thank you for the invites there. We were able to get some input from some of the senior residents within our community, and it was really helpful to get those perspectives added into it. So thank you for extending the invite and allowing us to attend and get that feedback.
Thank you, Steve. Janelle? Anything else?
Yeah, I noticed that they sent some comments in and they mentioned how appreciative they were, so, yeah, kudos to you guys. No, that's it, thank you, Glenn.
Thank you, Janelle. Joe? Anything else?
Also,
Gina?
All set.
No?
I just want to say that I also brought them, thanks to Amy, because she printed out all the presentations that we had done that week, and Eric and I did that with Steve, but also for the office hours, Amy printed out some more for me, and we handed it out to people while we were there too, and so there was a comment from somebody, so that was worth it, right? But there was a whole table of people that were talking about it, and so that was really good. So thanks to everybody there that participated too.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you, Janelle.
It's okay, I have nothing else to do. No, it was good, it was really good to get a different perspective, right? So,
Thanks, Mel. Kobe, anything last? Ted?
I think, thanks for going to both of those. If you have thoughts or notes on things that came up that you want to share with the respective committees or share with the whole committee, I would encourage that. I might do the same. I've been shopping it around and trying to talk to people and have written down other comments that have come outside of the ones that were presented, and I might publish those or talk to the chairs as needed. So just encourage people to do that. Only other thing, I am really trying to understand story maps and having my first story map be trying to translate this into story map version. So I hope that by the next meeting, I have a digital and interactive version of this. I'm saying it out loud so I can maybe hold myself accountable to following through on that. But hopefully that's just another way that people are going to be able to engage with materials.
Yeah,
And
that'd be great.
if it's a good enough product, we can work with our GIS team and they can clean it up.
Yeah, that would be great. And anything else, Kobe?
That's it.
Okay.
Thank you.
So my last comment for the night, Amy, I also have a running list of changes that I'd like to see, mostly grammatical, not really much to do with changing goals or objectives, even though there are a few things I will be throwing comments out as well for us to talk about. But mainly just a few detailed things that I'd ultimately like to see changed that I'll talk to you about, as well as give the committee an opportunity to talk about at our next meeting. Mainly things like formatting, the structure, readability, editability, anything like that. Just making certain that we're doing our due diligence to make certain that the document is grammatically and critically written so that we're proper. And the reason I say that is because I literally spend my day doing code. And Rick, it's funny, you said that earlier about the red lines.
Eric?
It's been.
It wasn't Meg or Mel, so, yeah.
Eric.
Eric,
I've been up
No,
since
Jen.
3:30 AM. I apologize if I'm a
That's all
little
right,
tired
that's all
today.
right. No problem. I knew who you were talking
My
about.
brain is on overload over here. But you said red lines earlier. I was bringing up code today with my apprentices, and I was talking about something that was actually taken out of the code book, but they wouldn't have known it was taken out of the code book if I didn't bring up the old code and show them where it was redlined. So bringing up that red line text is a valid point. It's kind of hard to know what's changed or what's been, what the changes have been without actually showing those changes. So it's a valid point, and I think it's worthy of consideration when we actually present that information to the planning board. Other than that, just want to thank everybody. So much hard work has gone into getting us to where we are today. I know we have the holidays coming up, and we won't really have an opportunity to see us all as a group together between now and when we get back as a full committee in January. So I just wanted to take the opportunity to wish everybody a great holiday. Hope everyone has a great Christmas and enjoy their Hanukkahs and the New Year's Eve and coming up also before our meeting. So I just want to wish everybody a happy holiday. Enjoy the December. I hear it's going to snow eventually.
Tonight.
Motion to adjourn.
What was that again?
Second.
I didn't get that.
Motion to adjourn.
Roll call vote. Bruce,
Yes.
Meg,
Yes.
Gino,
Yes.
Janelle,
Yes.
Eric,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Erin,
Yes.
Mel, yes, Kobe,
Yes.
Glenn.
Yes, thank you, everybody. Have a good night.
Do we have any